All right, so you finished your first draft. Congratulations, you're one step closer to being a published author, and I am so very proud of you. The next step, though, is going to be when the hurdle goes from a gentle incline to almost completely vertical, and you're going to end up learning how to rock climb. This next step is probably the most expensive thing that you will do with your book before you actually publish it. It's editing. Editing can be hard, and let's just say that there are some people who do not look kindly on the topic that we're going to be discussing in this video when it actually comes to editing, specifically self-editing. This is Kathleen Lyons here at the Magic Library, and today we're going to be talking about self-editing and also some unconventional tips for doing such. All right, so before we get started and everything, let's talk about some updates going on. In 2 weeks' time, I will actually be selling at a very big festival here in Jasper, Alabama called Foothills Festival. It's a very big festival that basically takes place during 2 days in September, usually around a weekend, and they have everything from artisans to booksellers, and they have live music, and they also have a food court of food trucks, and it is a very fun time. Me and my family try to go every single year, and this year will be my first year that I will actually be selling at Foothills Festival. I'm very excited about it. I will be selling books, I will be selling prints, and I will also be selling stickers and everything. I will give you guys more updates as that comes. And on October 11th, I will be selling at Foothills Book Fest, the first year that Foothills will actually be running the festival. It's going to be inside at Jasper Civic City Center, or Jasper City Civic Center. It's too many C's. Jasper City Civic Center, and I will be there with a fellow author of mine. Hopefully we're going to be right across the way from each other, and we will also be selling our books there, so I'm very much looking forward to it. If you've bought my book from either my store or from Amazon, make sure to come on by so that I can sign it for you. Or if you've not bought the books yet, come by, buy a book, and let's get to talking about books and everything, books and writing. I also have some updates for a new project that I'm working on. If you guys have been following me on my social medias, you've been noticing that I've been posting a lot of sketchbook pictures. So I will show everybody what is going on with that in a later video. But with all of those announcements out of the way, let's get into the video. So before we get started and everything, let's actually get some definitions out of the way, specifically the difference between traditionally published authors and self-published authors. With traditionally published authors and everything, mostly everything that you get that you would pay for if you were self-published comes from the publishing house that you are partnered with and that you've signed a contract with. They provide you with an editor, they provide you with a cover artist, they provide you with layout, and you also can get ARC readers this way. Let's just say that while all of this is good and everything, you do not get as much back from doing this as you think. Primarily because traditionally published authors are sort of scouted by how popular stuff is on social media. If there's enough hype and excitement for it and your pitch sounds good, they'll offer you a contract. But the thing about it is that for young authors and everything, we often do not get these deals no matter how proud we are of our work. So most of us go with the self-publishing route. The problem is that if you are a young author, like say you're in high school or you're in middle school about to go into high school, you are going to be most definitely on a budget. When I was first writing Arborea Lux and everything, I was also heavily on a budget, but I also didn't know how expensive everything was going to be. And also with my ADHD brain, I wanted to learn everything that there was to know about the process from the first idea to the finished product. And let's just say that I went down a deep, dark rabbit hole of despair, and I now know probably a little bit too much about how editing works. All of my books that I've published, I've self-edited. I've gone through them with a fine-tooth comb, that the fine part of it gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. editing probably takes the longest amount of time besides actually writing the daggum novel, because you're going through your work and meticulously going through, looking for issues, looking for stuff like that, looking for grammar errors or plot holes or stuff like that. And this is one of those times where if you have writer friends and everything, definitely run it by them so that they can actually look into it as well, just because another set of eyes is one of those resources that you definitely don't want to be in short supply of. But I will get onto that later on in the video. Let's talk about some unconventional tips for self-editing that I've used and that I've discovered work in very, very weird ways. So, unconventional tip number 1, read your story backwards, chapter by chapter. I will be perfectly honest, I do not know why this works so well, but I do know that it helps find plot holes, and it's very interesting the way it happens as well, because you are looking at your story when you're first reading a book. You're first reading it from first chapter to end chapter, and the story is linear that way. Going backwards sort of like messes up that linear part of the aspect of storytelling. And let's just say that it does a very good job of showing some plot holes and some stuff like that, and other instances of like where there's inconsistencies in your work. I found this out so very recently that you could probably still see traces of it in Seraphim Requiem, because I went through Seraphim Requiem a lot, and I discovered that in order to sort of change up how it works in my brain and everything, instead of going from beginning to end, go from end to beginning. It actually works a whole lot. I mentioned this before about doing this with a friend, but unconventional tip number 2 is share the story with your friend and actually read it through with them. A second opinion is something that can help you figure out your story from another angle, and seeing it through a reader's eyes and also talking with that reader helps out a lot. This is a lot of where ARC readers and beta readers come into play. I actually do not have any beta readers. I will sometimes ask my friend Hunter to actually beta read for me, and he'll go through and he'll ask some questions about like, why is this like this or anything, and it's like, and usually it's stuff that will be asked later and that will be answered later on in the story, but it's like it's like him going through it and everything. It helps me see stuff from a reader's perspective, so I highly recommend it. This is way too close. Second opinions aren't necessarily bad, but I will say this, take everything with a grain of salt. Everything is highly opinionated, and don't let it discourage you. Number 3 is perhaps a very unconventional tip, especially if you are someone who writes more than they read. Take notes while you're reading like you are someone doing a review. A quick disclaimer, this is usually a tip that works once you've given your story some time to sit and cook. Because you're working on other things in that time and stuff like that. So it gives it time to basically marinate. And when you come back to it and read through it, you're reading it through that weird gray area between reader and writer. But when you're doing this, get a notepad and paper and write down some notes that you have found Like if you notice that there's a different spelling of a word, or if this dialogue doesn't necessarily seem right, definitely make a note of it, and once you go back to look at your story to see what you can change, refer to those notes. Let me tell you, it works in the long run. I do a lot of annotations whenever I do my writing. I will do the first draft and then I will go through, read it, and I will actually annotate right there on the paper. And then I will use those annotations and those edits that I made to write my second draft, and then my third, my fourth, my fifth, and so on. It most definitely helps, so just trust me on it. The fourth unconventional tip is perhaps one that I found quite by accident. It's read your story aloud to yourself. I mentioned this in another video about the first time I ever did like a magic reading hour when I first started this channel up. And I was actually reading the first chapter of Arborea Lux, and reading through it and everything, I noticed so many mistakes that I actually stopped the video and I just had to like sit and cry for a little bit because I was so embarrassed. This is usually called the storyteller step. Basically, if you are reading it aloud, imagine that you're reading it aloud to a bunch of people who are wanting to read your book and everything, and they're all big fans of your work. Basically, reading through it and everything helps with finding any mistakes that you have. And let me just say, I don't know why it works, but it most certainly does. You don't necessarily have to do this in front of everybody or when you're filming like I did when I first tried doing this. Just have it with yourself. Just read aloud to yourself. And any mistakes that you see, make a note of it, make a little mark, and then move on. Don't focus too much on it and saying that, oh, I'm a failure and everything. No, that's not what we're doing here. Just take a deep breath and move on. So unconventional tip number 5 is use apps like ProWriting Aid or Grammarly, or specifically those two. And I have a little bit of a disclaimer about this. While these two apps are technically called AI apps, they are not generative AI. This is not content generating software. These are technically things that help you to grade your own work. You do not have to use the rephrase or rewrite buttons for this, so that it doesn't seem like that. Just keep that in mind. I typically use ProWriting Aid to grade my work and also to technically beat the flags, which is basically trying to rework my brain so that it's like I don't have that many errors. Or use glue words or stuff like that. I will get into these two programs in a later video because I technically have used them before, but I will be talking more about those in length in another video, probably as a more of a disclaimer video to say that I do not use AI. I do not use AI at all. These are not content generating apps. These are apps that are used to help you grade your work, to help you become better writers, so that you basically are trying to make yourself remember, hey, I don't need to use this word. These are what these programs are used for. But with all of that out of the way, I think that's a good place to actually end the video. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you guys have any questions or topics that you'd like me to cover about self-publishing or about writing in general, please put them down in the comments below. But yeah, this is a good place to end the video, so I will end it here. And that's it for the video. Thanks so much for watching, you guys. If you want to read Luxalia's side of the story, you can check it out in my book, Arborea Lux. The link for that book is in the description below. If you'd like a signed copy as well as some merch, you can go to my online store and check out the book merch boxes. Each box comes with a signed copy of my book, a series of art prints that I've created, as well as 2 bookmarks and a sticker pack. I also have a Printify store where I've created merch with my own designs. You can find the links for those in the description below and in my link tree. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and ring that bell for notifications about my writing craft and my art videos. This is Kathleen Lyons here at the Magic Library, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye, guys!